My name is Tamanna Wahi, and it is an absolute pleasure being here today at Burjeel Hospital. More so today because we're here to discuss a very, very important topic. A topic that we've been reading a lot about, hearing a lot about, a topic that has emotionally affected us quite a bit lately, a topic that has raised a lot of questions amongst us, and hopefully today, with our panel discussion on heart attacks being on a rise amongst youngsters, we aim to answer those questions which are on my mind, and I'm sure on yours too. For the same, we have with us today our esteemed panelists, Dr. Virender Kumar Mishra, Dr. Abdul Majid Zubaidi, Dr. Koshi, and Dr. Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, some recent incidents have shaken the world with the sudden deaths of a lot of young adults having massive cardiac arrests, which was unheard of before. Why is this happening? Just keeping it as basic as that, why is it happening?
You see the
Yes?
you see the massive cardiac arrest or cardiac myocardial infarction in young people is basically because suddenly they all have got plaque formation in the coronary artery and that ruptures. Once it ruptures, it can cause the massive myocardial infarction and they generate arrhythmia and they arrest. The question is why the young people are getting atherosclerosis and plaque at early age and why this plaque is so vulnerable to get rupture. This depends on their lifestyle and food. They are not taking a good lifestyle. They are not considering taking a healthy food, which end up in the plaque formation at early age, myocardial infarction, sudden death.
And Dr. Koshi, what do you think about this?
See, there has been a shift
Okay.
in the decade. Earlier, 60 plus, 70 plus, shifted to the sixth decade. Now it's pretty much in the fifth decade. And this is not a recent thing. The trend has been going on for the last 15, 20 years or so, the downshift. And we have been attributing it to lifestyle, like Dr. Mishra said. Lifestyle changes, improper management of your health, and dietary patterns which are not natural to you. So this has been there. I mean, this is something to watch out for, and we have to find a way to reverse it and go back to, like we say, the good olden days. And that's about 50 years ago.
True. And Dr. Abdul, what are the key risk factors for an early age heart attack?
So, heart attacks in general, we have a large study, that's an international study that looked at what we call risk factors, or those factors that makes you at a higher risk of developing atherosclerosis or blockages of the heart, of the arteries of the heart. And those risk factors were well studied, and a big study published about 15 years back or so, called Interheart study. And that study, basically what they did is they looked at different factors for those people who presents with heart attacks. And they found out that 90% of the heart attacks are caused by one or multiple factors. So the more of these factors we have, the more the chance that we're going to develop a heart attack because of a blockage in the arteries. And this was pointed out by my colleagues earlier. So the risk factors, some of it are genetics. I mean, we can't change them. So our gender we can't change. Age, as we grow, we are more prone, and genetics. Some families are more prone than the others. And then there's those acquired ones, and those are the ones that we need to work on, which is, smoking, lack of exercise, overweight, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes. So all those factors, adopting healthy lifestyles, reducing the stress, all the work stress, and different types of stressors. Those makes us more prone and faster to develop this, the blockages of the arteries.
So, Dr. Thomas, I actually want to know, how do mental stresses play a role? in the heart attack? I mean, I've read a lot of articles lately where they talk about stress being a major factor. But if you could just care to elaborate a little more on that.
Well, stress is a magic word that we use for everything. Leave alone heart attacks, any disease, we blame stress first. And it's the go word today in today's 20th century. Everyone is running and everyone is stressed out. We are all stressed out at this point because we're facing cameras. So stress is integral to our life, but then how we interpret stress is what causes disease. Now stress can be good, stress can be bad. Many of us enjoy work. And when you go and you take the stress of enjoying your work, it probably is not detrimental to your health. But then there are factors, there are things that make people stress out and they don't enjoy the work anymore. They have to stay up awake at night, they have to take long shifts. So what happens is the hormonal balance of the body gets completely disturbed. There are people, when you stress out, you tend to develop habits which are detrimental to your health. In a sense, stressed out people sleep less. Stressed out people tend to smoke, resort to other mechanisms to stay awake. And all these factors add and then trigger a process, and once the process of atherosclerosis formation is triggered, it just goes on and on and on. And then we do a lot of stuff that is pro-inflammatory for the body. In a sense, you can smoke, set off an inflammation. And the smoking is a repeated process. You keep on insulting the body over and over again. And when we form inflammatory markers, we tend to accelerate the atherosclerotic process. And then when we say this atherosclerotic process, when we were students, we've learned that the aortas, the main vessel of the body, as early as the age of 22 years, you can find plaques. So you can imagine, the unknown.
Sorry, what age was that?
22.
22, wow.
And the youngest heart attack that we treated when I was a student was 18 years old. So it's a process that cannot be changed, but it's a process that can be modified, and based on how you live your life, you can actually modify the things. The stress is definitely the go word here.
Absolutely. And
I will
since we're
just,
talking about modification, what are the preventive measures that you think someone should be taking, Dr. Virender?
Yes, so preventive measures, first is just I would like to add in the stress that one of the most important part in the stress is how do you take anything and react to that things. That is called positive or negative. It has been shown by many studies, if you have a very positive attitude, taking things in the right perspective and the right direction and deal it in the right way, your stress level goes down, your risk goes down. Other risk factor which is very commonly, which we have to control is, most commonly are the two. One is the smoking. Smoking by any means, whether it is a smoking of cigarette, shisha or midwak. Midwak smoking is quite prevalent in this part of the world. We strongly discourage for midwak smoking, shisha or smoking. Control of the cholesterol and lipid profile is another thing which we have to strongly encourage them to bring down to. Many studies has shown, there is a lot of write-up has come where people are contradicting for control of the lipid profile or cholesterol. And because of that contradiction, they have done again reanalysis and they say no, cholesterol has direct role for atherosclerosis, we have to control it. Hypertension, diabetes, as Dr. Zubedi just said, they are the risk factor. If we control, then the chances of getting problem, heart attack, you can reduce significantly.
And Dr. Abdul, would you like to add on to that in terms of preventive measures?
Well, we, as I say, there's factors that are, you can't do much about them, which is the genetic susceptibility. So if someone is genetically susceptible, he knows that cardiac disease or coronary disease is prevalent in his family, then he should be more aggressive. But all of us should be aggressive when it comes to modifying our lifestyle. So being active, controlling our weight, ensuring that our diet is, following the healthy cardiac diets or healthy heart diets. That will reduce our chance of developing high blood pressure and cholesterol and diabetes. So it is, stress, another factor, it's very common now at the younger age, everyone is after timeline and targets even from kindergarten, everyone wants to attend early in the morning, so, you have to deliver every, projects and that puts a lot of stress on us. One of the things, even not blocking arteries, and we see an entity now, and I don't know my colleagues here, but I saw it so frequent, which is called the lay language broken heart syndrome. Broken heart syndrome. So broken heart syndrome is someone exposed to, a strong emotional stressor, and mainly in women's. They suddenly the heart muscle just goes from a normal function to a severe weakness. There's no blockages in the arteries of the heart. So that's another, it just tells how much the stress can be bad. Can be bad on us. Right. So it's easy to say avoid stress, but it is. I think it's a lifestyle. To get to to prevent stress.
Yeah, it's become a part of our life now. Stress is
exactly. So you have to.
As long as
we
you
have
enjoy your stress. I mean, if you really enjoy the stressful part.
I think everybody reacts to stress in a different way. Yeah.
The
reaction is the
important. I think
important.
it's a lifestyle that we put ourselves into. Stress. And I think the way we raise our children, the way we, I like your way, Mr. When you say, everything, you can take it in a positive or a negative way. And I think, we need to start changing that culture.
So if you talk medically, that's what you basically asked initially. What does stress do, right? So there is a series of neuroendocrine kind of reactions within your body. For instance, you're running a 100-meter dash. You are pumped up. It is a form of stress. Your adrenaline is rising. Your whole body is in a kind of a tense state, and then you take off. Any kind of stress makes these modifications within the body. And when you have that, it affects your organs in ways, and over a period of time, if you have it. So some people will wear out faster. Some people wear out slower. You take a race car, 5 years. You take a luxury car, 20 years. So that's exactly what stress does to your body.
I tell you one example for stress. If you're driving in a car, you're coming to the hospital in the morning, there is a big crowd on the road. The front person is going with a slow speed.
Yeah.
You are behind him, you are not getting a place to overtake, you get stressed with a simple thing. You want to honk it, or you want to go here or there.
I think traffic stress is a big point.
How does it matter? If you are late by 5 minutes, how does it matter?
Yeah.
Open the FM, enjoy the song, go slow.
I agree.
Reduce the stress.
Music is definitely a therapy.
I think it's it is a culture that you have to adapt and change your way of looking at all these different stressors, because it's not just one. It's not about someone, say, losing his job or losing something or getting sick. No, it is the daily continuous stress that you're getting from the time you wake up.
It could be something so basic, and it could just stress us out.
And when you come to the question of young people, why they are getting heart attack, one of the major factors is this, stress.
Stress management, basically.
Correct.
They have very low stress management.
I think our next panel discussion needs to be on stress management.
But another point just is in the young especially, and I don't know how much you guys saw, but in the young chaps who does bodybuilding and the supplements that they take in. And I got a good number of patients through my career that are bodybuilders, young in their 20s, and they take different supplements that has ingredients that we don't know.
Correct.
What is the source of those ingredients?
And talking about supplements, it brings me to my next question, that what is the connection between exercise and cardiovascular disease? Like, I've read so many of these articles about how someone worked out immensely and post that had a massive cardiac arrest. So just to understand, what is the connection?
So I'll take that to start with. I mean, there are two ways, two things in this. We are talking about a cardiac arrest, which is related to atherosclerosis
Right.
and or clot formation and a heart attack. That's different.
Okay.
People also talk about these footballers dying on the field. That's a totally different a problem altogether. That's an electrical problem of the heart, right? They are sportsmen. They're usually generally very fit and not directly related to the exercise. Now, coming back to the first one, which this topic is all about, if you do sudden, unaccustomed work, so we advise our patients, for instance, forget about the sportsmen. We tell them, and they come to us saying that, okay, I'm a diabetic and I intend to start exercise. So we test them. We tell them the limits and we tell them to scale it up slowly. But sudden, unaccustomed activity, and if you heighten it, accelerate it, it can put a sudden amount of stress onto your arteries and cause not only rupture of plaques which might be there, or it can even cause tears within your arterial structure, and all of those can lead to a heart attack. So dissections, I mean, I'm sure you would have seen a lot of dissections, right?
Exactly.
Coronary dissections.
Unknown plaques. The basic thing is these things, these unknown plaques, which you can never pick up on a treadmill.
Yeah.
Right.
See, a lot of us tend to think that you go to the cardiologist, he does a stress test on you, he does an echo on you, and you're fit as a fiddle. No, the stress test can be the biggest, spot of stress for us, because when we certify somebody fit on the treadmill, it does not mean anything. It actually, we are not sure ourselves, because there could be a plaque which ruptures because he exercised, and then he can reach the gate and have a heart attack.
So to put it in perspective, there is a...
I'm a little scared right now, but
That's not to scare you.
Point of is like we assess the patient on a stress test. Like today itself it happened. One patient, we were doing a stress test in the morning. By 9 minutes of exercise, his blood pressure shot to 240 systolic. Now imagine this guy outside in the frame doing exercise, heavy exercise. He is not aware that his blood pressure shooting to that high. Now such kind of patient, as he suggested rightly, we have to restrict them. Tell them you can do intermittent exercise, can't continuously run or do heavy exercise, because if blood pressure shooting that high can dissect any vessel.
Dissection means tear
correct.
inside.
I think a key message is, for those people who wants to get engaged into some sort of a high level of a stress or exercise. They need to have some screening, at least a basic screening, to rule out, to ensure they don't have any congenital abnormalities.
Yes.
The players that we see sometimes in the games, that they fall suddenly and their heart stops, and it happens now and then. It causes a major, media issue. Is most of these people are having congenital abnormalities, and most of it is, as Dr. Koshi stated, electrical problem within the heart, and that is, contraindication. These people don't allow them to go for a very
High intensity
stress.
Right.
So I think screening is very important in the young, especially who wants to get engaged into high intensity stress.
Yes, and talking about screening, and Doctor, you mentioned that the youngest patient that when you were in college, you saw was 18 years old. So, are there a lot of youngsters coming in right now? Do you see a change in pattern where youngsters are coming in to come get examined? Because talking about myself, I know I would be a little scared, and I would always, be like, oh, this is not something that I need to do as yet.
Right.
But
So there are many ways to go about it, but the most important thing is men are more predisposed than women.
okay.
So that should take your fear out of this situation.
Okay.
Number two, family history has a big role to play. So even if you're exercising, even if you claim to have defeated the exercise, family history is genetics. Genetics will hound you. And if you have heavy family history, it's always better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely.
I mean, even when we speak about the recent young man who died, that's caused this media furore all over.
Right.
The thing is, he had very strong family history.
Okay.
2 of his brothers had died at a very young age. So he set out on this path to defeat the exercise. But the fact is, refusing to get tested under the assumption that everything is fine because you're exercising is wrong.
Is wrong. Correct.
Just
Now, if you have a decent family line, if you have a decent genetic line and everything is very good and you can exercise, maybe you can exercise to a very good high level.
Yes.
But if you have faults there, you better, get evaluated before you check and then develop it slowly. And even when you have very long distance runners, for that matter, when you have these marathon runners coming in, after the marathon you check their cardiac enzymes, it's elevated
High,
because the
correct.
heart has taken a beating for the full 40 kilometers that is run.
Just to add in young people, another very common cause in young people, which we have couple of cases, is the drugs. Drugs cause the spasm of the coronary artery. Because of the spasm, they get block and heart attack. So we have to strongly pass this message that the drugs should be avoided and youngsters going for drugs.
We have our live watchers right now, and someone called Subin has sent a message saying that, does intense workout at a gym cause heart attack? Anyone who would like to take that?
So I'll take that. Intense workout in a gym can cause.
Okay.
See, we don't want to scare off people.
Right.
Now, if you take the sportsman,
Yeah.
and if they are gradually scaling up their intensity levels and the body is already accustomed to it, chances are very, very less. But if you start from day zero and day one you're at complete full-blown HIIT training,
Yeah.
there's a much higher chance.
Okay.
Also, that depends on what your baseline profile was. You had multiple risk factors, you have not tested, your family history is very poor. So there are, you can't treat the body as a robotic device. It's a human body after all.
I think it's someone is predisposed. So it's not the stress itself that kills me, but it is what is there before the stress. So that's why it's important for someone who's going to do a high intensity is to check himself first. Does he have any congenital abnormalities? Does he have any coronary disease? Does he have risk factors like the smoking, diabetes, and so on and so forth?
Yeah.
So someone who's at risk should not get engaged into a high intensity stress unless he checked himself first.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is the gradual and
Scale up.
Gradual
Scale up
scaling
the
up.
exercise.
Should be
Right. So it's the intensity at which you need to pace it up.
High intensity
very
as such will not kill you,
Right.
but if you're predestined to die by high intensity, you will get it. That's kind of
All right. I hope that answers your question, Subin. And if you have any other questions, please keep them coming, and we'll definitely ask them to the doctor. Now, I don't know if this is a relevant question or not, but does food have a role to play? Like with youngsters, the lifestyle, like we mentioned. So I know food is a cause, and I've read that, and it's somewhere in my head. I know my parents have told me that, but I don't know. From the experts, it's the best time to ask you that: does food have a role to play?
take that question. See, food has a role to play, and you see, if you look at it from a holistic point of view,
Yeah.
the moment you hold food in your hand, you know whether it's good for you or you know it's bad for you. Okay? You don't have to be taught that pizza and the heavy cheese on it is bad for you. You know it.
Correct.
And everybody from the small kid to the old man knows it. And then if you say you want to eat everything and stay healthy and smoke and have alcohol on top of it, well,
I will put it in this way. You have a car. The car runs with a petrol. If you put diesel in the car, what will happen to engine? It will jam. Our body is designed for right kind of food. If you put all wrong kind of food in it, it is going to affect our body. There is no doubt in it. Now, how to decide what is the right kind of food, what is the wrong kind of food? This is called healthy diet. Anything which grows on the plant is always safer. This is the one fundamental law, principle. Anything growing on the plant is safer for human consumption. Anything comes from the animal world are subjected to be scrutiny. What to eat, what not to eat. Do you want to add something?
Definitely. There is a good studies in the past that looked at what we call a Mediterranean diet. And Mediterranean diet was proven in some studies that it is safer for the heart, and Mediterraneans, they have a lower risk of heart attacks and of blocked arteries. That probably this is in the past. But there, and what's different about the Mediterranean diet in the past is it's rich in vegetable, rich in fruits. So, you see the Mediterranean, a lot of salads, a lot of fruits. So, having a lot of fruits and a lot of salads makes a difference, probably. And this is based on the data and the evidence.
Advice is not to go completely vegan. That's not the plan here. It's not very tasty. So I'm a meat
I didn't want to be the one saying that.
Yeah, but the thing is, I have a little bit of a different concept that people should think of. Naturally, we are supposed to have certain things, how we are genetically predisposed.
Right.
But in the last century or so, refined. You check out anything, sugar, refined. Wheat products, refined. This refining of products kind of makes each of these products calorie dense.
Yeah.
You are trying to chemically change, even your sugars are chemically washed, cleaned out, etc. These are actually dangerous. We are not just talking about heart disease, by the way. Heart disease is just one of the things. If you want to talk about cancers, everything is affected by food, right? What do you think?
Yeah, it's the preservatives that we take.
Right.
Even your water, we really do not know what's there in your water.
Low
Frankly
salt,
speaking,
high salt,
low
no salt.
Why are we modifying things? Go natural.
Yeah.
And it's extremely difficult to figure out a modified fruit from a naturally growing fruit.
Yeah.
So nature has put things in food, and we refine it and take it out and make sure that we eat the dangerous part.
Let's add this to this.
Let's add this, let's add that.
Yeah.
It's gonna-
Calories per gram, we are amplifying
Correct.
it.
But taking off from food, another thing that is very relevant is that amongst youngsters, along with the stress and the change in lifestyle, what also happens is that they end up skipping meals and they replace it with coffee, with tea perhaps, basically, and instead of their lunch or their morning breakfast, they're like, okay, I'm just going to have a cup of tea and that's that. So is that also a role to play,
I
doctor?
think the new trend of intermittent fasting is
Yeah.
catching on.
It's a new trend of
I
intermittent
think it's,
fasting.
Yeah.
We really can't comment on that aspect of it, is it?
No, I believe these unpredictable eating habits. I would say mostly it is it affects the quality of the food and the quantity of the food, because you're not having a dedicated meals. You end overdoing it, or so I think it's the having a clear habits in terms of timing of where what you want to eat, what you're going to eat, the quantity of it, and the type of the food. All of that plays probably a role.
Right.
see-
And sorry.
You see, in a nutshell, if you remember just few principles, one is never overeat. So whenever you are hungry, you eat 75% of your hunger, you will be perfect.
Yeah.
Moderation. Remember, nothing to be taken in high amount or high calorie or high amount. If you take everything in moderation, you are still going to be fit. And the something was just told by him, which we know obviously this is not a right food, avoid that food.
Right.
And the trick is moderation. Moderation in food, moderation in work, moderation in exercise, moderation in everything.
Yes,
Balance.
will keep you fit.
Correct. So I also got a very interesting question actually on our Facebook Live from Capitan Pinoy. He's saying, what are the screenings to be done to avoid such an episode? So just from a normal person, and if I want to understand what are the screenings that I need to be taking to understand if there is a problem.
So just to summarize for the screening for these patients, one is the family history very strong. If somebody who has both parents coronary artery disease at young age means below 60 or below 55 years, that means he is more vulnerable. He need to check his screening after 20 years of age. If younger they can do, that is fine, for lipid profile, for sugar, diabetes, and for other parameters. If these parameters turn out to be screening normal, and if he is having no other symptoms, like discomfort, shortness of breath, or any other thing, the most common screening is one of them is a stress test. If the stress test is normal at young age, they have a 5-year safe period. They will not develop. Atherosclerosis is a very slow process. It takes years to develop.
Right. So the stress test is something that anyone can just walk into the hospital and get it done, or is there a process to it? How does it work?
You've got to meet the cardiologist.
Of course, yes.
And then he has to order it, and he has to decide it's safe for you.
Okay.
Because we screen a lot of things. It's over and above what we tell you.
Yeah.
We are assessing you from the moment you walk in. So you could be
Correct.
overweight. You could be harmful to yourself by smoking.
Right.
So there are a lot of parameters that come into an assessment. So it's like on a broad nutshell, we get a history, we get your blood work, we get your echo and your stress.
And
But that's
basis
just a
on that, you
skeleton.
decide upon
That's
what.
just a skeleton of things.
Correct,
Yeah.
of course.
I mean, it's a combination of
It's
factors.
a lot of factors. That
Let the
it's never
take-home
1 plus
machine-
1. It's never a 1 plus 1 equal to 2. It's 1 plus 1 is 11 kind of a story.
Let there not be a take-home message that your stress test is clear and you're fine. Huh? That's not what we're trying to push over here.
I
Right.
think more important than for the screening, and especially for the young people, is people needs to know their numbers. What are the numbers? I mean, I ask this question frequent to a lot of people, and they don't know the answer. You know, what is the ideal body weight, body mass index? What is the normal blood pressure? What's the normal or what your cholesterol should be?
Yeah.
What's the normal blood sugar? And you know, as one of my friends keeps repeating, is everyone knows how much he has in the bank, and more important, you need to know. You know, those numbers are
Those
more
numbers
important than
in the
your
body.
account, because those numbers will dictate how healthy you're going to be. So, you know, you go around and you ask, what is the normal body mass index? And everyone walks into the clinic, I ask them, you know, what is the blood pressure? He says, oh, my blood pressure is 140, say over 100. What is a normal? What it should be? They don't know.
Yeah.
So
No,
I think,
agree.
you know, for screening, you know, everyone should be educated about this, about those
What the
you know,
numbers
Education.
that you have.
Right.
Know your
about those
numbers.
numbers.
The kind of numbers we need to know about and learn more
If you
about.
need to know, a normal blood pressure is 120 over 80.
Okay.
Okay? A normal heart rate is anywhere between 70 to 90. Right? A normal cholesterol generally is less than 200 milligram percent, and there is cholesterol such as LDL and HDL. The HDL is good cholesterol, LDL is bad cholesterol, and your LDL cholesterol should be less than 180 milligram percent. So those are numbers
Yeah.
on the internet for you, so that at least
We have
now
always
you know
seen
the
them when we
numbers.
get our report is when we actually see them, and then we just forget about those numbers. But of course, we need
But
to keep.
these are the numbers you need to keep in
remember.
mind. Yeah.
I also got a question from Vaishnavi where she's asking that can a physically fit person be a victim of heart attack, for example, or a sudden heart attack, if at all their lifestyle is not exactly bad, if they're not going very intense in the gym, but a physically fit person eating clean, how does that work?
Yeah.
Apart from the family, is there any other
That's exactly what we've been telling you right from the beginning.
apart from the family history, is there anything else that
You see, the famous cricketer from Indian team
yeah,
who was very healthy throughout playing, and he had a massive heart attack. And then lot of media coverage, lot of question, how come he got a heart attack? He is going to gym, he is active, he is cricketer, he is physically fit. The issue is here, atherosclerosis process can affect anybody. It's a very slow process, and when we have a plaque inside our coronaries, it is the rupture of the plaque triggers the heart attack. And why the plaque ruptures is can be stress on during that particular portion of his lifestyle, some food habit, or stopping his exercise for a couple of weeks and then suddenly starting. Anything can trigger it. Many questions, even we don't know what triggers it. Probably another 10-20 years we will be more knowledgeable what triggers it, why it ruptures.
I think you know, one of the things people mix up is about about disease in general, but about you know, chronic disease or blockages of the arteries of the heart or heart attacks. When we talk about the risk factors, so smoking, you know, weight, exercise, and so on, those factors what we're talking about is probability. So if you don't have any other risk factors, you're totally, practicing a healthy lifestyle, your probability, your chance of having a heart attack is very small. But
Yeah.
it doesn't go zero, So there's no blank check that you're going to be zero.
True.
So it's just a probability. If you have more risk factors, your
Add
risk
lots
just
to
keeps
it.
going up.
Keep adding.
It's added risk. So we're playing a risk, like
Yeah.
like you're putting your money into a stock.
And
There's
what-
no guarantee you're gonna get. Still, there's a small chance you may lose.
So we recommend using a seat belt while driving,
Yeah,
but
similar.
still not a guarantee that
Exactly.
nothing will happen
Same
while
logic,
driving.
Exactly,
right?
same model.
But okay, what should one do if at all someone besides them, someone I'm close to, someone I'm next to, they get a heart attack, and I realize that there's something wrong? How do I deal with it?
As in, if you have an event happening
Yes, yeah,
right in front.
yes,
I mean, the first thing would be to alert,
correct.
right? And then there are some basic steps that we tell people to do is cough vehemently. Take deep breaths and cough out. Deep breaths and cough out. That helps in kind of dislodging. It's not a mechanism, but first thing, try to call 999 or call for help around you and alert people, and then just be around and see if the person can breathe. And but don't try to do anything medical aggressively, which you cannot. You might make a
Right.
mistake.
It might worsen the situation.
Might and will.
Will.
I think one also important thing is the perception in the community is heart attack is severe, like the one we see in the movies.
It's-
The severe
yeah.
chest pain and he falls and so. Unfortunately, most of the heart attacks are people who comes with some pain here, discomfort, they have some pain here, they have something here, and they would be walking around for a day or 2 days, and sometimes they die before they ask for a medical attention. So my advice is someone, who gets pain in this area, epigastric, down here, here, choking pains, shoulder pain sometimes, at least you need to see a physician to reassure you that there's nothing to worry about. The majority of patients, unfortunately, they don't have that drama when they present with heart attacks.
Yeah. And finally, what is the message that you would like to give to the youngsters out there watching this? All of you,
So
actually.
we gather it's only youngsters watching, no one else will.
No, I mean, we're talking about how it's, heart attacks are on a rise amongst youngsters, so which is why, I think the assumption is that the older people are slightly more, they're like a little more careful about things, and youngsters have this perception that heart attacks wouldn't happen to them.
Yes,
So
yes.
taking off from that, what is the message you would like to give them?
Let's start with
Yes,
Dr.
first message is if they have any symptoms, must seek help. This is the first message. If they have any symptoms, what kind of symptom they are not sure, go to nearby whatever hospital, tell their symptoms. A physician can screen them and tell them that this is nothing, don't need to worry.
Right.
Second point is for them, lead healthy life.
Okay.
All youngsters, my strong advice is to lead healthy life.
So we have a small practice guideline we follow in the American Heart Association. That is, if you have a single risk factor and you're above the age of 20, you should at least meet a medical person. If you're above the age of 30 to 40, you should meet a specialist.
Okay.
If you don't have a risk factor, you can just get a screening done to find out if you have some. And then, of course, the lifestyle changes around. So 20, 30, 40, keep that target and go and know your numbers.
Know your numbers.
And most important, this is where we make mistakes. None of us sitting here passed out from Google College of Medicine. Okay? So if you have a symptom, let us tell you that it's okay. Do not self-diagnose. A lot of people miss
Absolutely.
because of google.com.
For sure.
It increases their stress
I am
level.
I'm guilty right here.
They go search and then their stress level get more high. Next day they are
Yeah.
sitting in the clinic.
Absolutely. All right, this has been very, very insightful. So thank you so much for joining us and even answering the questions that came on our Facebook Live. And I hope that all of you have taken down notes and visit a doctor if at all there is an issue. I hope there isn't. But thank you so much. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.